And welcome back to the show. Facing chronic health issues and isolation, the frail aged are particularly vulnerable to heat stroke, heat exhaustion, as well as dehydration. Now, Citymeals is encouraging all New Yorkers to check in on their frail aged neighbors during this week's dangerously high temperatures. Citymeals on Wheels has definitely provided continuous lifeline of nourishing meals and vital companionship to New York City's homebound elderly population. And joining me now to share more details is the Associate Executive Director and Chief Program Officer at Citymeals on Wheels, Rachel Sherrow. And thank you so much for being with us, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
You deal with the vulnerable and really at a most vulnerable time right now, the midst of a pandemic, and then also a heat wave. Give us a little bit about, how Citymeals on Wheels is really trying to help get involved.
Sure. I appreciate, again, having me on here and highlighting everything that is going on with this vulnerable population. And as you noted, we're in the middle of a pandemic and now a heat wave, compounding things for our vulnerable neighbors. The way we check in is we're delivering every day. We are making phone calls to folks. We're making sure that when we're delivering those meals or just visiting with them, that we feel either there's air conditioning on or there's a fan. We're making sure that they're comfortable temperature-wise, making sure they have enough water. Hydration is so important, and reminding them to drink is so important, and making sure that they feel comfortable in their own homes. There are cooling centers out there. People are a little more fearful these days because of the Delta variant to go out to stay cool. So we're making sure that they have what they need in their homes.
Yeah. And talk to us, because you're saying that you go out, you'll basically make some wellness calls and just check and see how people are doing. For the average person who may have an elderly person at home, how can we do the same thing that you're doing, asking those right questions? What are some of the right questions we should be asking?
Thank you. Knocking on their door, staying 6 feet apart, wearing a mask, just checking in, making sure they seem okay physically, reminding them to drink water. Anybody who has relatives, making sure they're doing the same, making sure they're comfortable, and understanding that at a certain point, if somebody is not feeling comfortable, what to do, calling 911, making sure that they get the help that they need, so that they aren't compromised.
Yeah. And so for people with Citymeals on Wheels, I know that you've got a lot of volunteers that are out there. Talk to us about how your program rolls out in meeting these needs.
Sure. We have been incredibly lucky with having over 20,000 New Yorkers help throughout this pandemic, and certainly now with the heat wave, going out, delivering meals, doing the wellness calls, checking in with our neighbors all throughout the city, all 5 boroughs. And I think we've had over 36,000 hours of this work being done over the past year. And certainly over the summer, as you've mentioned, things get a little hotter. So we have to make sure that we're checking in a different way and making sure that the needs are being met. We have delivered water to folks with their meals and encouraged them to drink. Water drinking is not very popular among older folks. It's more popular among young kids who are used to doing it on a regular basis. We need to make sure that for every coffee being consumed or soda, that they're drinking water as well.
Yeah. The numbers are really staggering. And when I say staggering, I'm staggering and stunning. When we look at what you do, over 3 million meals have been served by Citymeals this year. Talk to us about that number, because when we look at the numbers, we do see an increased demand, particularly during COVID.
Sure. Before COVID, we were delivering about 2 million meals a year to about 17,500, 18,000 recipients around the city. At the height of the pandemic last spring, we were serving to about 21,000 homebound older adults, in addition to about 25,000 folks who used to be able to venture out to senior centers. Since senior centers have reopened and things have gotten a little bit better in the city, we are now serving about 20,000 on a regular basis daily, and have delivered almost twice as many meals, between 3 and 4 million, because of the pandemic.
Yeah. And when we talk about, these meals, they take volunteers to get there. I know that you've been having an increase in terms of getting the meals out, but I know that you've also had to have an increase in terms of needs for volunteers. Talk to us about your volunteers. And if there's somebody watching right now, how can they play a part in that?
Absolutely. Go to our website at any time, citymeals.org, and you can volunteer with us. We love having people help us out, whether it's somebody who's comfortable leaving their homes and actually delivering a meal, or staying in their homes and making these wellness calls. We have been incredibly lucky, as I said, to have folks who, even in the beginning, the height of the pandemic, to come out and risk their own safety to make sure that folks were getting food in their homes when everything was shut down. We work with kids, we work with older adults, people who weren't able to work during the pandemic, folks who had a little more time because they were working from home. We really have a variety of people, but we're always looking for volunteers. We really rely on them, and they've been such a huge support of everything we've been doing over the past year.
Now, if you told me 1 meal, 100 meals, 1,000 meals, maybe even 10,000 meals, I can pretty much understand and navigate. How are you able to navigate a 1 million increase when it comes to being these deliverables and meeting people's needs?
Sure. Well, it's not so easy, but we have staff, we have folks who are dedicated employees around the city who have shown up, who have been there to deliver every day, and again take their own risk in making sure that they're doing this, and volunteers showing up every day. Sometimes we're delivering more than 1 meal a day to make sure that if we're not able to get back the next day, we know they have food, or we're delivering them 3 meals at a time. Some of our extra food to those who are a little more vulnerable, maybe used to rely on family members or friends who aren't able to do it now, or folks who are able to get out, like I said, to senior centers, or maybe to the local food pantry that they can no longer go out to.
Yeah. Again, we start off this segment talking about the work that you've been doing with the elderly, particularly during the height of this heat season. Winter is one thing, but summer can be a totally different beast when it comes to learning how to navigate that. And for our elderly and our homebound population, we know that a lot of them are really struggling and trying to lack sufficient needs. And so for your organization to be able to actually not just serve food, but also do wellness checks, what do you feel that does for in the life of that senior and in the life of that family?
Well, what we do know just from getting feedback from our meal recipients is just the check-in is so important, so that they know and they feel that somebody is looking out for them. They're not forgotten. Somebody is trying to make sure that they're okay. And that means such a world of difference. And it's a reminder for them. Yes, turn on the air conditioner if they have one. Yes, turn on the fan, or let us know you don't. And there are city, there is the ability for the city to help get some things to our older homebound, to make sure they have them in place, and we can connect them. We can make the referrals for them. And that's what's so important, to know that there's a need and then be able to help them.
Yeah. You've been doing some great work, but tell me, what has been some of the biggest challenges that you've actually faced during this whole time?
That we're all going through it together. It's not just one population or another. We're all in it together. So it can be a struggle, whether it's folks afraid to take the train just to get to work in order to deliver those meals, or food being delivered late because there are issues with vendors or contractors, or just the idea that people are burnt out. People are living their own in their own pandemic and yet being selfless and helping others. It's been a real struggle, I think, as a city, a city doing this, and that the folks that we're serving are the most vulnerable of that, and we just want to make sure they're not forgotten. So there's a lot of self-care that we have to make sure that our volunteers and our staff are doing to make sure that they're able to then help those who need it the most.
Do you have any prediction or projection, I should say, as you get ready to turn towards the fall? I mean, I love the fact we're in the summer, but truth of the matter is fall is coming upon us. So any predictions or projections as you look forward towards the summer, towards the fall?
The only projections, we have is obviously we're watching everything that's happening with the new variant and making sure that we have food on hand, not only in our warehouse in the Bronx, where we have a storage of emergency meals, but also that our recipients have that. So delivering a little extra for those who are most at risk, and for those who maybe have something, giving them something as well, so that they don't have to be concerned if there's a day that there's not a delivery, or if things shut down again. We just want to make sure that they have what they need on hand, and that they're not concerned or worried about it.
Rachel, well, I want to thank you so much. City Meals doing a great job. As I told our viewers earlier, over 3 million meals served this year. And people do have the opportunity to come on and be a volunteer as the elderly and the homebound are being looked after. Rachel, thanks again for joining us here on Open.
Thank you again for having us.
All righty. Well, we want to let you know that if you want more information, we encourage you to visit them at citymeals.org and then follow them on Instagram and Twitter at City Meals.